The Kingdom of Tetharion was dying. Once a beacon of prosperity and magic, it now lay in ruins, a shadow of its former glory. The streets that once bustled with life were now empty, save for the occasional figure wandering aimlessly, lost in their own despair, not with a whimper, but a tortured groan. The people of Tetharion were not merely suffering. They were enduring a slow, agonizing decline. Their faces, etched with pain and hopelessness, told the story of a kingdom on the brink of collapse. Once vibrant cities now crouched beneath a sky perpetually veiled in twilight. The sun, once a symbol of hope and renewal, was now a distant memory, obscured by thick, unyielding clouds. The twilight cast long, eerie shadows over the crumbling buildings, creating an atmosphere of perpetual dusk. The air, thick with the stench of decay, carried whispers of forgotten magic and the chilling lamentations of the dead. These whispers, barely audible yet profoundly unsettling, seemed to emanate from the very stones of the city, as if the land itself mourned its fate. For the veil, the mystical barrier separating the world of the living from the spectral realm, was crumbling. This barrier, once strong and impenetrable, had weakened over time, allowing the two worlds to bleed into each other. The once clear distinction between life and death was now blurred, creating a realm of uncertainty and fear. Whispers became moans, then chilling screams. The voices of the dead grew louder and more insistent, their cries echoing through the empty streets and abandoned homes. These spectral voices, filled with anguish and longing, seemed to be searching for something or someone to bring them peace. Shadows danced with a grotesque life of their own, twisting into monstrous apparitions that stalked the night. These nightmarish figures, born of darkness and despair, prowled the streets, preying on the few remaining souls who dared to venture out after dusk. Their presence added to the pervasive sense of dread that hung over the kingdom. The dead, once content in their eternal slumber, now clawed at the edges of the living world, their spectral hands reaching for a life they could no longer claim. These restless spirits, driven by a deep, unfulfilled longing, sought to reclaim what they had lost, even if it meant tearing apart the very fabric of reality. Fear, cold and pervasive, seeped into the hearts of men. This fear was not just of the unknown, but of the known horrors that now walked among them. It was a fear that paralyzed, that made even the bravest souls hesitate. It spread like a plague, infecting every corner of the kingdom, leaving no one untouched. In the heart of this decaying kingdom, ancient prophecies whispered of a convergence, a point where the veil would shatter completely. These prophecies, passed down through generations, spoke of a time when the boundaries between worlds would dissolve, leading to either salvation or utter destruction. The people clung to these prophecies, hoping for a glimmer of hope amidst the darkness. From the ruins, destiny would call forth unlikely heroes. These individuals, seemingly ordinary and unremarkable, would rise to face the challenges that lay ahead. They would be tested in ways they could never have imagined, their courage and resolve pushed to the limits. Yet, it was their very ordinariness that made them extraordinary, for they represented the resilience and strength of the human spirit. Their choices, fraught with peril and sacrifice, would determine the fate of Tetharion. Each decision they made would carry weight. Each action would have consequences. They would face trials that would test their loyalty, their integrity, and their very humanity. The path ahead was treacherous, filled with dangers both seen and unseen, but it was a path they had to walk. Would they rise to mend the shattered veil, or would their actions usher in an age of eternal darkness? The fate of the kingdom hung in the balance, resting on the shoulders of these unlikely heroes. Their journey would be one of discovery, of growth, and of ultimate sacrifice. In the end, it would be their choices that would determine whether Tetharion would be saved or lost forever.
Amara, once a proud sorceress of the royal court, was now a phantom, haunting the fringes of Tetharion. Stripped of her birthright and branded a traitor, she bore the scars of betrayal and loss. Her magic, once a vibrant symphony of light, now flickered with a dangerous, almost volatile energy, reflecting the turmoil within her soul. Exiled and hunted, Amara sought redemption, not for the crown she had lost, but for the mistakes that had shattered her life. The whispers of the shattered veil called to her, their mournful song resonating deeply with the pain in her heart. Perhaps within this unraveling world, she could find a way to atone for her past. Her path led her through the decaying heartland of Tetharion, Each step was fraught with danger, each encounter a test of her resolve and courage. The whispers grew louder, the spectral apparitions bolder, yet she pressed on. For Amara, the crumbling veil represented not just a threat, but a chance to rewrite her destiny.
Kaelen, once a paragon of chivalry, now walked a path shrouded in darkness. His journey was no longer one of glory and honor, but of penance and regret. Each step he took was heavy with the memories of battles fought and lost, of friends who had fallen by his side, and of promises he had failed to keep. The forest around him seemed to whisper his name, as if the very trees were aware of his sorrow. The weight of past sins, of oaths broken and comrades lost, clung to him like a shroud. It was a burden he carried alone, for who could understand the depths of his despair? The ghostly figures that surrounded him were not just figments of his imagination, they were the specters of his past, haunting him with every step. Their silent gazes were a constant reminder of the lives he had failed to save. The glint of his once polished armor was dulled, a reflection of his spirit. Once his armor had shone brightly, a symbol of his unwavering resolve and noble heart. Now it was tarnished and worn, much like the man who wore it. The battles he had fought had left their mark, not just on his armor, but on his very soul. Each scratch and dent told a story of a fight for survival, of a struggle to hold on to his humanity in the face of overwhelming darkness. He was a blade forged in the fires of war, tempered by loss and hardened by betrayal. His sword, once a tool of justice, had become an instrument of vengeance. The battles he had fought had changed him, turning him into a warrior who knew no peace. Yet, despite the pain and the loss, there was a part of him that still clung to the hope of redemption. He held his sword tightly, as if it were the only thing keeping him grounded in a world that had lost its way. His journey had led him far from the gilded halls of the royal court. Once he had been a knight of the realm, sworn to protect the kingdom and its people. But the path of duty had taken him to places he had never imagined, and the choices he had made had led him away from the life he had known. The castle, with its grand halls and noble lords, was now a distant memory, a reminder of a time when he had believed in the ideals of honor and duty. Now, he sought solace in the shadows, his only companions the ghosts of his past. The darkness was a refuge, a place where he could hide from the world and from himself. The ghosts, with their silent accusations, were a constant reminder of his failures, but they were also a source of comfort. In their presence, he was not alone. They were a part of him, a testament to the life he had lived and the choices he had made. The whispers of the shattered veil echoed the torment within him, a constant reminder of his failures. The veil, a boundary between the living and the dead, was a place of great power and great danger. Its whispers were a siren song, calling to him with promises of redemption and threats of damnation. They spoke of the lives he had taken, the promises he had broken, and the path he had chosen. They were a reflection of his inner turmoil, a manifestation of the guilt and regret that consumed him. He was a knight errant, his honor lost, his purpose adrift in a world on the brink of collapse. The land he had once sworn to protect was now a desolate wasteland, ravaged by war and strife. The people he had once served were scattered and broken, their lives torn apart by the chaos that had engulfed the kingdom. In this ruined world, Kaelen wandered, searching for a purpose, a reason to keep fighting. His honor, once his guiding light, was now a distant memory, a relic of a time long past. The call to heroism, once a siren song, now felt like a burden. The ideals he had once held dear seemed hollow and meaningless in the face of the suffering and destruction that surrounded him. The call to arms, the call to be a hero, was no longer a source of inspiration, but a reminder of the weight of his responsibilities. It was a burden he was no longer sure he could bear. Yet, despite the doubts and the fears, there was a part of him that still longed to answer that call, to find a way to make things right. Yet as the veil trembled and the dead stirred, Kaelen felt a flicker of resolve ignite within him. The world was on the brink of collapse, and the forces of darkness were gathering. The veil, the boundary between the living and the dead, was weakening, and the dead were beginning to stir. In the face of this impending doom, Kaelen felt a spark of determination, a glimmer of hope. He knew that he could not stand idly by while the world fell apart. He had to find a way to fight back, to protect the people he had sworn to serve. Could he find redemption in the face of annihilation? The path ahead was fraught with danger, and the odds were stacked against him. But Kaelen knew that he had to try. He had to find a way to make amends for his past mistakes, to find a way to protect the world from the darkness that threatened to consume it. The road to redemption was long and difficult, but it was a journey he was willing to undertake. For in the face of annihilation, there was still a chance for hope, a chance for redemption. Could he protect a world that had already forgotten him? The people he had once served had moved on, their lives shaped by the chaos and destruction that had engulfed the kingdom. They no longer remembered the knight who had sworn to protect them, the man who had fought for their freedom. But Kaelen had not forgotten. He still remembered the promises he had made, the oaths he had sworn, and he was determined to find a way to fulfill them, to protect the world from the darkness that threatened to consume it. For in the end, it was not about being remembered, but about doing what was right.
Lisa, an elven rogue with a thirst for adventure and a nose for trouble, lived for the thrill of the unknown. From a young age, she had always been drawn to the mysteries that lay hidden in the shadows, the secrets that others were too afraid to uncover. Her life was a tapestry woven with threads of danger and excitement, each day a new chapter in her quest for the extraordinary. Agile as a shadow, silent as a whisper, she moved through the decaying cities of Tetharion with an almost supernatural grace. The crumbling buildings and narrow alleyways were her playground, each corner a potential hiding spot, each shadow a place to disappear. Her movements were a dance, a carefully choreographed ballet of stealth and precision, honed through years of practice and countless close calls. Her eyes, sharp as emeralds, missed nothing, her ears attuned to the whispers that danced on the edge of perception. She could hear the faintest rustle of fabric, the softest footfall, the quietest breath. These whispers were her guide, leading her to hidden treasures and unseen dangers alike. They were the voice of the city itself, speaking to her in a language only she could understand. For Lisa, the shattered veil was not a harbinger of doom, but an irresistible enigma. It was a puzzle waiting to be solved, a riddle that teased her intellect and challenged her skills. The veil was a thin barrier between worlds, a place where reality and dreams intertwined, where the past and future collided. To others, it was a source of fear and uncertainty, but to Lisa, it was a beacon of possibility, a mystery waiting to be unraveled, a treasure map leading to secrets long forgotten. Each clue she uncovered, each piece of the puzzle she solved, brought her closer to the truth. The ancient secrets of Tetharion were her prize, the knowledge of forgotten civilizations her reward. She was a seeker of truths, a discoverer of hidden wonders, driven by an insatiable curiosity and a relentless determination. Her curiosity, bordering on obsession, drew her towards the most dangerous corners of Tetharion, where the veil thinned and the whispers grew louder. These were places where few dared to tread, where the line between the living and the dead blurred, and where the past bled into the present. But Lisa was undeterred. She thrived on the danger, the thrill of the unknown, the promise of discovery. She moved through the shadows, a phantom of mischief and curiosity. Her presence was a fleeting glimpse, a momentary blur in the corner of the eye. She was a ghost in the night, a whisper in the wind, always one step ahead, always just out of reach. Her reputation as a master thief and a cunning rogue was well earned, but it was her insatiable curiosity that truly defined her. Her loyalties were fluid, her motives as elusive as smoke. She was a free spirit, bound by no one and nothing, her actions guided by her own code of ethics. She could be a friend or a foe, a savior or a thief, depending on the situation and her own whims. But beneath her carefree exterior, there was a depth to her character that few could see. Yet, beneath her carefree exterior lay a sharp intellect and a surprising capacity for compassion. She understood the struggles of the people of Tetharion, the hardships they faced, the dreams they held onto. She had seen the best and worst of humanity, and it had shaped her into a complex and multifaceted individual. Her actions, though often self-serving, were sometimes driven by a desire to help those in need. For even a rogue could recognize the approaching darkness, and even the most jaded heart could be stirred by the plight of a dying world. The whispers in the shadows spoke of a coming storm, a darkness that threatened to consume everything. And though Lysa was a rogue, a thief, and a wanderer, she could not ignore the call to action. The fate of Tetharion hung in the balance, and she knew that her skills, her courage, and her determination would be needed in the days to come.